Legal, the Mexican drug cartels control everything crossing our border. A lot of the marijuana, a lot of the cocaine, certainly now almost all of the methamphetamines are coming from Mexico, crossing our border. They're the most evil and violent people on the planet. I force myself to read and watch things that I otherwise wouldn't if I didn't have this job. And I mean, they're brutal. Chainsaws, decapitating people with chainsaws, that kind of thing. So I want to do whatever can, in the long run, weaken the Mexican drug cartels. But when you're talking about smoke, so the use of marijuana now is benefiting the drug cartels, in essence.
Absolutely.
And that's something we can't have. So I'd like to talk to physicians too, and is there other forms of treatment? Is marijuana so special that nothing else can do what it can do? I don't know much about it. It's not something that is in my lifestyle.
I work with registered nurses. This is what I work for about 85 families with special needs children who need access to this, their children suffer from either cancer or intractable epilepsy.
And that's the thing, that can we extract THC? Is that, I think,
There's several different.
Like, I don't know those answers.
Currently, right now, Texas law forces patients, parents to become felons, because the second you extract, you do anything to marijuana in Texas, it becomes an automatic felony. A teenager in Round Rock was facing life in jail for making some brownies. He was facing 99 years to life in jail for some brownies. That doesn't seem like an effective use of our time.
I get it. And I understand your passion for it, and thank you for coming. So, the honest answer is, I don't know a lot about it. I don't like to sit there and think about, there's really two ways to go in the drug war. You either go more of the Singapore route and make it far more draconian and increase all the penalties for anything illegal, or you go the Amsterdam route where it's kind of all decriminalized. I don't want to be in Singapore or Amsterdam in that regard. But what we're doing is, currently, the Mexican drug cartels are getting wealthier and wealthier. So we've got to look at it and do something else. I'm not quite sure it's legalizing some of the already illicit drugs. But we can certainly talk about it, and we can make, set a meeting, and I understand your passion for it. I'd love to.
I just think if we spent our time not going after marijuana arrests, we could target those methamphetamine arrests, those hard drugs that are actually causing serious problems in our community.
And I hear that, and I've heard other arguments of it's the gateway drug, and the 16-year-old smokes a joint, and then hey, this is fun, but then this isn't quite doing it for me, and hey, some cocaine's now fun, and wow, so you don't want to go down that path either, clearly.
Mm-hmm. So, I would love to sit down and talk to you about it. I appreciate your time.
Just follow up on the conversation as a nursing professional, and from some of what I've heard and read, there are pharmaceutical companies who are extracting components of marijuana and putting them into pharmaceutical products that can be used for treatment of sexual preventable conditions, as this gentleman has been addressing. So I just wanted to.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess got to get.
I just wanted to also add, I spent a few days up in Colorado, dealt with some people.
In Colorado, it's recreational.
Yeah, I know. Just after it became recreational, I spent some time talking to some people and doing a little bit of research while I was up there. I can also talk to you about what I discovered up there, which will be relevant to some of this.
Okay, thanks.
I don't want to belabor the point on the speaker's race, but I want to make a couple of just points that I wanted to share with you. For those of us that were at the state convention this past year, it was clear who the grassroots people that are the people that are the ground game, that really promote conservative values, the ones who are out there doing the work. It was clear who their choice is. There was a period during the day where Scott was going to speak, and I was like, I'll just head over there and go catch it. I could not get within 100 feet of his booth. They couldn't even make out a single word he said, because the grassroots people had swarmed in there so much to eat up even the notion that we could have a conservative speaker. And I just think it's something that cannot be ignored. If you talk to the people that are out the block, the people that are out doing the work, I don't know anybody who doesn't want to speak change.
Dan, quick question. Deanna, how many people were at the convention?
Approximately 8,000.
8,000?
Yeah.
Is that typical, Diane, or are they bigger in presidential years? Yeah. Because was it 12,000 in 2012?
I had two small points. And they're very
You're
short.
a mayor, go ahead.
All right, so one of the arguments I've heard against Scott is he doesn't have the experience in leadership. I'm sorry?
Need a good strategy.
Well, that's exactly my point. Strauss started with no leadership experience. It's a point that doesn't.
And I don't think that really sits with me all that well, only because you can rise to the occasion. And from what I've seen with Scott is, he is an up-and-coming superstar in the conservative movement. If I could wave a magic wand, and this was Patland and not the United States of America, I'd love to see Scott Turner on national TV in the United States Congress, and espousing conservative viewpoints, because I think he is so passionate and intelligent and eloquent and I think he really believes, and his life story has been tremendous. So I would have preferred, honestly, if I could, be the puppeteer to get him into the federal, just because I want him to be exposed. But certainly he would be, have a big microphone heavy.
And my last statement, and it's very short. I'm going to quote your friend Jonathan Stickland on this topic, which is, doing the right thing is always the right thing to do.
Tom?
Thanks, Pat. Said a few minutes ago that down in Boston, what have you done for me lately? And if Joe Strauss is elected speaker, the what have you done for me lately will be the 52 or whatever Democrats looking for payback. We are at kind of a watershed moment in our country, let alone in our state. Right? And the voters of the state had the good sense of Abbott and Patrick and Paxton in the three key leadership places. So we as a state have an opportunity through our legislature, through that leadership, if we can get the right person in the House, to actually do the things that conservatives across the state, and I believe conservatives across the country, want to see happen in a state, in a bellwether state like Texas. So it's my opinion, we've known you since first city council race, we've supported you in every way possible. I think at this point in time, it's time for leaders at all levels to stand up and make the right choice, and to make it publicly, so that the people around know who the people are that stand on principle and not on get along and go along and come along, go along and get along.
Is there any way to get it so that the people can elect the speaker?
Technically, there is.
Nice for you.
Yeah, look at all the stress we would have.
Well, for those of you that may not know, essentially that happens in the state senate. The lieutenant governor is the president of the Senate, the presiding officer, and he is or she is elected by the citizens of the state of Texas. I think, considering the power that the speaker has, I have absolutely no problem with it. To do that, you have to change the Texas Constitution. To do that, you'll need 100 votes in the House and 2/3 in the Senate, and then the governor has to sign it, and then the people have to vote on it. If it got to the people that far, yeah, I think it would skate. I ain't gonna ever get that far. But another thing that we considered is, for any speaker, is I've always been a proponent of term limits, because we can talk about that and have a 5-hour discussion about it. But it's more of a, in theory, I'm not for it, but in practice I am, because studies will show, and when people stay too long, it's not good for the people. In incumbency, you do gain more and more power of incumbency the longer you serve, because you have usually more access, more money, more connections. You become smarter in how to campaign. It's very difficult to beat an incumbent. It's very difficult. Not impossible. It happens, but it's difficult. In fact, when Ralph Hall lost this last time to John Ratcliffe, who actually is a good friend of mine and went to the University of Notre Dame, going. When John won, he was the first Republican to beat an incumbent in a primary in Texas state history. Now, there weren't a lot of Republicans in our state after the Civil War, but it was just more of a recent thing. But that was fascinating. It was very telling that it doesn't happen often. I would think it'd be healthy for our body to have a term limit on speakers. And if that were to ever get passed, you would have to say present speaker exempt, because it's not going to, it would die. But it's talking about for the body as a whole. 3 terms, I think, is plenty. And there's a lot of talent in the House, and then kind of move on. Because when I walked in the speaker's apartments for the first time, for those of you who don't know, there's these gorgeous, the buildings from the 1880s, gorgeous speaker's apartments, and the speaker can use those. As soon as I walked in there, I thought to myself, anybody that has this office and this apartment in this building is leaving with their fingernails on the door. I mean, it was anybody. It is gorgeous. And that, for those speakers, that I think the three, in modern times, because back in the, I think 60s and earlier, you just did it, you were a speaker for a term. You didn't want the job. You did your job and you got out and somebody else did it. And only in the recent era has that happened. And I think the last three speakers before Speaker Strauss that were serving got pretty much the boot. And it wasn't of their own volition. And then once I got in those apartments, I understood why. They are gorgeous.
Why not, would you be willing to submit a bill to allow the people in Texas to submit an amendment to the Constitution and therefore bypass the Senate and the House?
For what?
For an amendment to the Texas Constitution?
For the
To
people to elect the
allow the
speaker?
process to change?
I mean, the thing is, I try to be as pragmatic as possible as well. I mean, that thing is so dead on arrival that I think I'm burning my staff's time. I mean, it's just, and I to the eternal optimist, if I fall out a 70-story window, if you're on the 35th floor, you're gonna hear me say, so good so far, right? I mean, but that one, I just don't, I think we'd be spinning our wheels. I think it absolutely has zero chance, I mean, to even get by. But what I do think could possibly be more intriguing, and actually maybe a better bellwether, is to say, why don't we have 3 or 4 terms on the term limit on the speaker going forward after the current speaker, so he's grandfathered in, anyone after that and see how that, if that could get anywhere. I don't think it will, but I'd like to see it, and that's a lot easier than changing the Constitution. To get to 100 votes, I mean, I could write the bill and it just won't, because the Democrats would never agree to it as well. I don't know, think about it. Thanks. Mike?
Well, Pat, thanks for that in the town hall. I appreciate you coming out. I just want to reinforce the point that's already been spoken several times over. It's clear what the constituency want, not what those people who are jockeying for certain committee positions and appointments want. The people want Scott Turner, and you asked the opinion of your constituency, your district, and you're overwhelmingly wants Scott Turner.
Shannon, are we collecting the, if you have those, we can come around and collect them. Andy, if you could get up and collect these as well. If you'd like to hand in, if you haven't done so already, because, well, we're finishing up.
Did anyone not get?
Go ahead.
I just want to know, you want those on your constituency, right?
I mean, you know what? I would love it if you are not a constituent, just to still hand it in, but just put, not a constituent. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah, all I want to say is,
Flavor from the area.
if you vote for Scott Turner, how bad do you think it's going to hurt you down there if Phil Strauss is elected? And I think that's what's, that's the thing, I think for you, I could feel the same thing. You want to be successful down here, like it's the chairmanship, you want to get a good committee. And so, punishing them, you might be left out, or do you think that it will hurt your career? Or because we want you to do what we want you to do because you're elected. But I understand you're in a hard position, and that's what happens, that's politics. So, what do you think that's going to do if you say, I'm going to vote for Scott Turner, Joe Strauss, if you don't want to give me anything, then I'll just take it, we'll just go from there, and then I go elect you again, and next time, I mean, how does that feel?
It's the most important thing as far as what I take from my job is to be the voice and best reflect the will of the 170,000 people I represent. Number one, that's more important than anything else. Any committees, any appointments, any legislation item, to reflect that. Now, then we can go to do you best reflect that by playing the game and getting along and going along and being part of the team to get your legislation passed because that's what your citizens want? Or do you say, I have to take a principled stand on a very important vote, and who would you rather have kind of thing? So, I mean, I would love to, and I think we'll get there. I don't think we're there yet. To get to the point where it's truly a meritocracy for Republicans in a body that they control now 98 to 52. I'll give you an example. Ron Simmons last session, the legislator over in Louisville, was not named to the Appropriations Committee, although he wanted to be. So what did Ron do? He said, okay, He went to every appropriations committee meeting anyway. And he sat in, and they named him an honorary member of the committee. He didn't have a vote on the committee, but he went. Now, he was poised, clearly, regardless of his speakership vote, he should be on the appropriations committee next session. Nobody else did that. There are usually about 60% of the committees of any committees made up of Republicans, roughly, and then 40% because we're the dominant party. Any Democrat that did that should be named to the appropriations committee. Nobody else, to my knowledge, did that for any committee that they did not sit on in the entire House. I want it to be a meritocracy. I think you should be able to have both. I think you should be able to have love of your constituency and the grassroots and have a say in the way things and how things are governed in Austin. It really, truly seems to be an either or. And that's awful. Now, there will be, of course, some members that say, hell, in my area, the grassroots love me and I'm not chairman. This is different. This is North Texas. It does seem to be kind of an either or situation, and it's an unfortunate place to be, for sure. But I also will say this. I think that every member of the body should have had a town hall meeting before making an amendment, one way or the other, because we work for you, not the other way around. And I don't want to indict anybody that hasn't done it, but that's, again, in a perfect world, that's what I would, and that's what I am doing. I'd like to hear from as many people as possible. Sure.
Pat, you know me, no horse is too dead to beat. But, can you tell us something about transportation? About what's happening with transportation with that amendment that's signed, oil and gas tax and stuff like that? And
yeah, probably.
How much influence do you have in your position in these sort of transportation projects?
All right, clearly growing state, right? We met with Governor Perry and about 20 freshmen, and, well, the Republican freshmen, he kind of has, and to talk about transportation. He has had transportation in there. They said they're $4 billion short in the budget, $4 billion short, which is, a hefty number. I thought it ironic that of the $9 billion in funds that we did not anticipate having, unfortunately, $4.5 billion of that was owed by the 83rd legislature to the 82nd legislature. I will never vote for a budget that does that. You elect us to vote on a 24-month budget, not play show games. And so we didn't have $9 billion additional dollars, we had $4.5. Well, we need $4 for transportation. And if we say that business is the heart of Texas, then the roads are arteries. So that money should have gone predominantly, if not all of it, to transportation. It did not. It went to everything else, literally, but transportation. The reason being is, in my humble opinion, transportation lobby is almost non-existent. So, you get that. You get a lot of knocks at your door from special interests. Some are very worthy and they want to, request funds and their investments and not expenditures. Others are expenditures or cronyism. And everybody says the sky's going to fall if you don't fund their project, and you get kind of tired of hearing it. So transportation is something that was clearly underfunded, and we do have to do something better. Now, what Prop 1 did was, and it took the gas and the oil and gas severance tax. It took what was the exact percentage? 75-25. It's of the 75% that was going to GR. Half of that, so 37.5% of it will still go to GR. The other 37.5% will go to transportation funding from what would have, that would go to the rainy day fund, not GR. And so, but the rainy day fund has a ceiling set, or a basement set of $7 billion. So we can't go below 7. So anything above that we get in, of the 75% that used to go to the rainy day fund, half of that money will go, and it came out to about $700 million a year. So it doesn't get us where we need to go, but it's getting us closer. So I had just little innovative ideas that, again, won't get us there, but get us a little closer. Is we all hate the DMV loans, right? We hate it when we go and we got to get our new license, and I got to get my license renewed. It's on Friday. I just remember.
Happy birthday,
Thank you. But you hate to wait in line for 2 or 3 hours. So why don't we have like an express pass? They do it at Disney.
County, it's faster.
Yeah, but I mean something like that where I would honestly pay $20 extra, $30 extra voluntarily, just a passive thing. You don't have to do it, but to get quicker service. to say, hey, I don't want to go in there and wait 3 hours. So just, let's explore that and talk about it, things of that nature. But we have to do a better job with transportation.
On the topic of transportation, I know you have driven out to my town at rush hour before.
I have.
And it's not a pleasant experience. We are the fastest growing area of Benton County right now. And I think that that's set to continue for quite a while. I don't even know what influence you have on how things are determined with transportation spending, but I would love for you to keep that in mind. It's getting to be a considerable issue out there. And I don't even know where to start.
The influence that I have, to put it in perspective, we have one body of 31 I'm not a member of. We have another body of 150. I'm one of those 150 that I am a member of, and then we got the governor to sign on. I believe in your instance with 380, the issues have been right away. It's, you know, as you know now as mayor, it's just nightmarish. And that is the example of how not honestly to do a major state road. It's just been, it's bad, and we might get to the point, I think we may be already past that point of no return where we're stuck with what we got with minor improvements. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It really is. We've been going through some of the issues and pains down the colony with 423, and that's tough. And when you get to the portion in the middle, where it's 6 lanes, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. And then you snake back up to where they're just about to work the northern portion.
I don't think it's going to happen with that significant issue.
Can I just sidetrack for 1 quick second? FM 423 is the one road that touches just 3 cities: Frisco, Little Elm, and Colony. Enrique Mondragon was born and grew up in the colony, met his wife in Frisco, and they live in Little Elm. To this day, she still lives there. I'd like to, and we're going to file legislation to rename FM 423 Sergeant Enrique Mondragon Highway. So I just, because it's just kind of weird and perfect how that worked out to where it's, who cares what 423? It's not named. Pardon?
Don't do that until it's done.
One more.
He won't be popular.
Is there a limit?
Okay. Yeah, once it's done, then we'll rename it.
So there are a number of ocean area bills that have been filed.
Yes, sir.
Is there a preference that you have on any of those? Have you looked much into it?
You know what I'm passionate about? I love CHL. I like the fact that we did make it easier to get a CHL, and now, you know, having gone over the gun range and started shooting and things like that, you feel like when you're not carrying your lamp. It really is kind of interesting, and I'm so glad that we did that in Texas. I remember 1995 being, I was here then, and they were, the people on the other side of the argument were saying that Texas is going to get like the Wild Wild West if you allow people to carry guns and hide them. They're going to shoot each other over parking spaces. Well, the first year that it was fully enacted, there wasn't, of the 67,000, I'm just paraphrasing the numbers now, it's been 20 years, but of the 67,000 felony arrests in Texas, not one of them was a CHL holder. So, I mean, it's been remarkably successful. In fact, in the state house, if you have a CHL license, you don't have to go through security. You clearly either are covered, you're carrying or you're not. We don't know, but we know you have a CHL permit. So you can come up in the gallery and be armed. And we have never had one incident at all. Because you've gone through a course, you've gone through a background check, you're a law-abiding citizen by definition, you're not going to commit a crime with your weapon. And no one has.
So would you say?
And if they have, trust me, there's about 30 members packing.
I was gonna say that the stats on that, and what amazed me when I went through them is there's whole classes of crimes. Someone with a CHL is like 3 to 5 times less likely to commit a crime, but 3 to 5 times safer than a police officer.
That's unbelievable.
They literally have much better records than police officers do. And other crimes, we're talking 80, 90 times safer. You are so much safer around somebody with CHL, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then, campus carry was something that we didn't get out. And I think that's important, because why shouldn't a 20-year-old, 21-year-old college student be able to protect themselves like anyone else? And I think it makes the college campus safer. Because again, you're going through, you're not just, anybody, you got to check, make sure there's no mental health issue or anything like that, or a felony conviction clearly. But once you have that, and they take the course and they understand that, no, if somebody just says nasty words, you can't pull your gun out. It's for, when your life or your limb is.
The other thing that the people I know that have it, you talk just to, not like 15 times. they have a different mindset, the ones I've run into. They realize they're not there to do anything in the sense of uphold or enforce the law. It's got nothing to do with
It's
this at
just
all.
protection for you and people you're with, your family and other folks.
See people around them. And so they're not trying to stop criminals or anything else.
I just think back to that awful thing in the Lubies in Colleen. And if any that, there's a story about the woman that had it out in her car, I believe she had her weapon in her purse. Just all those people that were mowed down, and that could have ended very quickly. And Israel, I think as a nation, they're pretty much an armed populace because of the nature of how they have to live. And boy, there's no, I mean, you might get a couple rounds off and someone's gonna return fire. Much like what would happen again on the House floor.
Yes, back to transportation.
Yes.
We pay taxes, and then the taxes are distributed for roads and stuff like that. But reading about it, the new roads are gonna be toll roads. So we end up paying taxes on our gas and vehicle registration, et cetera, and then the poor guy who uses the roads, spends a lot of money on gas, also has to pay to use the roads. So either we raise the taxes on gas and get away from toll roads, or just give up and say, let's spend our gas tax money someplace else and make more toll roads. I mean, I think you're getting a lot of pressure probably from lobbyists supporting more toll roads. Looks like a great business because they have their own accounting. So that's my
Thank you.
position on transportation.
To be clear about something, the number popped back in my head. I believe it's $675 million is expected to be made and be diverted from the rainy day fund to transportation annually. So we have a biannual budget of $1.3 billion. None of that can be used for toll roads. That's one of the things that I and many colleagues fought for, was to say, we will take this money out, we will use it for transportation, but you cannot use it to fix or build toll roads.
New roads can come in as toll roads, totally funded by.
It's tough because nobody wants to raise the gas tax. Nobody wants to pay any more for gas. Although now when it's $2 a gallon, maybe the time. And I was only kidding about that, by the way. But you also don't want to have toll roads out. So how do you fund these things? What I asked TxDOT was, I said, when I'm dreaming, I dream about a 6-lane, 3 on each side highway going from basically in the triangle, right? From our area up here in Dallas down to Houston down to the San Antonio, Austin area, and then back up here. Because we're basically the size of a European country. I mean, we are physically the size of it. We have 27 million people. We have the population for it. And now they have a different model and a different system, but Germany, for instance, has wonderful roads, and the Autobahn is gorgeous. What would that cost to do that?
I'm scared.
Yeah, boarding on the tollway is the biggest parking lot in the world.
Right. But what would that cost? And then how do we get there? I still haven't gotten a straight answer for the amount. I want to know what that figure is, because like in business, you plan by saying, what do we want to do? How much is that going to cost? How do we get there? It's called budgeting. Can we get there? So it's a challenge, and we've got to knock our heads together. We've been very fortunate recently because of fracking and because of the energy that we've had. $2 gas prices, if they last long, are definitely going to affect not really so much this budget, but the 85th will be very much affected by it if it continues. So not to say I want to see higher oil prices. I will say that I'd like to see Texas energy boom continue. So, Mike.
Just a couple points. One is open carry, which is a good preventer as opposed to concealed carry to be a rate stopper. And the second point I'd make is about the international money transfers. The 10% aspect of that, I see a problem with, not applying universally, because you're going to get major opposition that people are going to have to show that they're citizens and stuff like that for money transfers. What I had thought earlier and had proposed earlier was instead just expanding the sales tax to all of the international money transfers through places like MoneyGram and stuff, which is where most of the stuff is done. I know. I am recommending something that would cost me personally probably $200 to $300 a year for all my charity work in Africa. But it would be the easiest implementation, and it would be very difficult for certain types of opposition to arise, and would probably end up raising more money.
Well, yeah, just on that, again, we can talk about that. We've
Yeah.
got plenty of time before March in the session, we can consider legislation, but the way in which you can do it is, you certainly, you don't have to prove it, because you can just pay the 10%. If you want to bring your passport in and not pay the 10%, great. So you don't do it that often, you're doing it for charities in Africa, you're very kind